My sister stole everything and disappeared. 30 years of silence. Then a homeless 19-year-old walked into my store saying he was her son. Wait, she stole $300,000. So why is her kid living on the streets? What happened? I didn't trust him. His mother destroyed my life. But something about him felt different. 5 years later, we'd built something I never thought I'd have again. Then she came back. Dying, she said. Needed money, begged for help. The same woman who stole from me, who abandoned her own son, now standing in my store asking for mercy, and her son looked at me like I held his whole world in my hands. Do I help the woman who ruined my life? I made a choice. Then 3 months later, someone handed me a piece of paper that made me question everything. My name is Joan, and this is my story. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Never Too Old channel. We're creating a community of people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. The boxes of canned soup weren't going to stack themselves. I bent down, my knees making that grinding sound they'd been making for the past year, and grabbed 3 cans of chicken noodle. 62 years old, and I could feel every one of them in my joints. November in Rochester meant slow business. People stayed home when the wind came off the lakes. I'd had maybe 12 customers all afternoon, and the sun was already dropping behind the buildings across the street. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. I should have replaced them months ago, but that was another expense I kept putting off. I worked 70 hours a week in this place. Every single week. My store, Brennan's Market, wasn't much to look at. 1,200 square feet of shelves, a deli counter with pre-made sandwiches in the cooler, a register that stuck half the time. But it was mine. I'd built it from nothing, 15 years of saving every dollar, then finally opened this place at 51. That was 11 years ago now, and I still felt like I was one bad month away from losing it. The door chimed. I glanced up. A young man stood in the doorway, maybe 19, thin, too thin. He wore a jacket that looked like it came from a donation bin, and it wasn't nearly heavy enough for November. A backpack hung off one shoulder. His hair needed cutting and his face needed washing. Homeless, probably. We got them sometimes. I kept my expression neutral and went back to stacking soup cans. He walked to the candy aisle, stood there looking at the shelves. His hand reached out, touched a Snickers bar, pulled back. He moved to the chips. Same thing. Looking but not taking. I finished with the soup and moved to the cereal boxes. The kid was still in the candy aisle. 5 minutes passed. He picked up the Snickers again, turned it over in his hands like he was reading the nutrition label, put it back. He was working up to something. I'd seen it before. Either he was going to try to steal, or he was going to ask for money. I straightened up and wiped my hands on my apron, ready. He walked toward the counter. Each step looked like it took effort. "Excuse me." His voice came out quiet. "Are you Joan Brennan?" My hands stopped moving. Nobody called me by my full name unless they were selling something or serving papers. "Who's asking?" He swallowed. I could see his throat work. "My name is Daniel Cooper. Linda Brennan is my mother. I think you're my aunt." The floor tilted. I grabbed the edge of the counter. Linda. I hadn't heard that name since the day she vanished with everything I had, almost 3 decades ago. "I don't have family." My voice came out flat. "I don't know any Coopers. You need to leave." His face did something, crumpled, maybe, like I'd hit him. "Please." He fumbled in his jacket pocket, hands trembling. "I have proof. I can show you." I said, "Leave." He pulled out a photograph, held it toward me. I didn't want to look, but my eyes went there anyway. 3 women at a picnic table, summer, a blue sky behind them. I knew that photo. I knew it because I was in it. I reached across the counter and took it from him. The edges were soft, like it had been folded and unfolded 100 times. There I was, around 30 years old, wearing a yellow shirt I'd forgotten I ever owned. My mother sat in the middle, smiling at the camera. And Linda, my little sister, sat on the other side. She couldn't have been more than 25. This was taken shortly before Mom died, before everything fell apart. "Where did you get this?" "From my mom. From Linda." He pulled out more things. A wallet. He opened it and showed me a Minnesota ID card. Daniel Cooper, age 19. Then a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it carefully, like it might tear. A birth certificate. I read the names. Mother, Linda Brennan Cooper. Grandmother, Claire Brennan. My mother's name. My sister's name. I looked up at his face. Really looked this time. His eyes stopped me cold. Gray-blue. The exact shade of our father's eyes. I hadn't thought about those eyes in years. But there they were, staring at me from this kid's face, and his chin. Square, with that slight cleft in the center. The Brennan chin. This was Linda's son. My brain started racing. Where did he come from? Where was Linda? What did she want? Because she had to want something. Linda always wanted something. This had to be a con. She'd sent her son to get money from me because she knew I'd be more likely to help a kid than her. Some story about rent money, or bus fare, or getting back on his feet. She'd probably coached him on exactly what to say. I put the photo down on the counter. Looked at him straight on. What do you want from me? Money? A place to stay? I kept my voice even. What's Linda's angle this time? He blinked. I don't want anything. I just wanted to meet you. Nobody shows up out of nowhere, just to say hello. I've been looking for family for months. A social worker helped me. He stopped. Took a breath. I wanted to meet someone who knew my mom. Someone from my family. I studied his face for signs of lying. The practiced expressions. The smooth talk. But all I saw was exhaustion. And something else. Something that looked like hope, and it made me angry because hope was a luxury I'd stopped allowing myself decades ago. Where's Linda? I don't know. You don't know. She kicked me out 2 years ago, when I was 17. His voice got quieter. I haven't seen her since. Linda kicked out her own kid. That tracked. That sounded exactly like something Linda would do. But it could still be part of the con. Send the kid in with a sob story. Make him believable. Then Linda shows up later with the real pitch. I should have told him to leave. Should have handed back his photo and his ID and his birth certificate, and told him I didn't want any part of whatever game Linda was playing. But I kept looking at his eyes. Dad's eyes. And that photograph. The three of us at a picnic table. Back when we were still a family. Back before Linda destroyed everything. How did you get that photo? I found it in a box when I was 15. Mom kept it at the back of her closet with some other old stuff. I took it. He looked down. I don't know why. I just wanted something that showed I came from somewhere. He'd stolen a photo from his own mother because he wanted proof he had a family. My chest felt tight. No, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't letting Linda pull me back into her chaos. Not after all these years. Not after everything she took from me. I can't help you. I slid the photo back across the counter. I'm sorry you had a rough time, but I don't know you, and I don't know what Linda told you to say, but whatever this is, I'm not interested. His face went blank. He nodded once, picked up the photo, hands still shaking, put it back in his jacket along with his ID and birth certificate, zipped the wallet closed. He turned toward the door. I should have let him go. Should have watched him walk out and never thought about him again. But my mouth opened anyway. Wait. He stopped. Turned back. Those eyes met mine again. You said she kicked you out at 17. Where have you been living? He looked at the floor, then back at me. Shelters, mostly. Streets when there's no room. A social worker helped me find you. The heater rattled in the corner, and I stood there looking at Linda's son, homeless and desperate, standing in my store, asking for nothing but acknowledgement that he existed. Linda had stolen my inheritance and vanished. And now her son was here, looking like he hadn't eaten a real meal in days. I'd spent decades learning not to trust anyone, built walls high enough that nobody could hurt me again. But my father's eyes stared back at me from this kid's face, and I couldn't seem to make my mouth say the word that would send him back out into the cold. I stood there for what felt like a full minute, looking at this kid who'd just told me he'd been living on the streets. Sit down, I finally said. He blinked. What? There's a table by the deli counter. Sit. He walked over slowly, like he thought I might change my mind, set his backpack down carefully, sat in the plastic chair, and put his hands flat on the table. I went behind the deli counter and grabbed one of the pre-made sandwiches from the cooler. Turkey and Swiss. Made it fresh this morning. Poured coffee into a paper cup, added 2 sugars and cream without asking. That's how I'd drink it if I hadn't eaten in a while. I put both in front of him. He stared at the sandwich, didn't touch it. You allergic to turkey? No, He looked up at me. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Eat it anyway. He picked up the sandwich with both hands, took a bite, then another. He was trying to go slow, trying to look like he wasn't starving, but I could see it in the way his jaw worked, the way his eyes stayed on the food. I sat down across from him with my own cup of coffee and watched him eat half the sandwich before he even touched the coffee. When he finally picked up the cup, he wrapped both hands around it like he was cold. Maybe he was. That jacket wasn't doing much. Tell me about Linda, I said. Where is she? He swallowed, set the sandwich down. I don't know. I really don't. You said she kicked you out. 2 years ago. I was 17. I haven't seen her since. I waited. He took another bite of sandwich, chewed, swallowed. What happened? I asked. He looked down at the table. A lot of things happened. Start somewhere. He was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking. We moved a lot when I was a kid. Every few months, sometimes. Different apartments, different neighborhoods. I never went to the same school for more than a year. Never made friends because what was the point? His voice was flat, like he was reading from a list. Mom had boyfriends. They came and went. Some of them were okay. Most of them weren't. They'd move in, things would be good for a little while, then they'd start fighting, yelling, sometimes worse than yelling. Then the boyfriend would leave. Or we'd leave, and we'd be somewhere else. I sipped my coffee, didn't say anything. When I was little, like 6 or 7, she'd leave me alone a lot. Go out at night and not come back until the next day. I'd eat cereal for every meal because that's what we had. I was scared to answer the door because I didn't know who might be out there. He picked up the sandwich again but didn't eat it, just held it. By the time I was 10, we were in really bad neighborhoods. Shelters sometimes. Mom was drinking more. Gambling. I remember her sitting at the kitchen table with lottery tickets spread out everywhere, scratching them off one after another. She'd win $5 and spend 20 buying more. That sounded like Linda, always chasing something, always sure the next one would be different. She'd tell me it was my fault we didn't have money, that having a kid ruined her life, that if it wasn't for me she'd be somewhere better. He said it so calmly, like he was talking about the weather. When I was 14, I got a job at a fast food place. Lied and said I was 16. Gave Mom my paychecks to help with rent and groceries. He looked up at me. She spent it on slot machines. How'd you know? Because I'd come home and she'd be gone. I'd find the casino receipts in the trash. Or she'd come back drunk, telling me about how she almost won big, how she was so close. I thought about Linda with money, with all that money she stole. And somehow this didn't surprise me at all. I barely finished high school, kept moving, kept missing school. I was always tired from working. Finally just stopped going my senior year. Got my GED later, at a shelter. What happened with the boyfriend? The one who made her kick you out? Danny's jaw tightened. His name was Greg. He moved in when I was 16. He didn't like me, said I was in the way. He and Mom would fight about it. She'd defend me sometimes, early on. Then she stopped. He took a drink of coffee. One night Greg and I got into it. I was 17 by then. He was drunk, started shoving me, telling me I needed to get out and get my own place. I shoved him back. He hit me. Danny touched his cheekbone, like he could still feel it. Mom came out and saw what was happening. I thought she'd tell him to leave, but she didn't. No, she told me I shouldn't have started it. Said Greg was right. I was old enough to take care of myself. She said I needed to pack my stuff and go. That night. The coffee tasted bitter. I set the cup down. Where did you go? A friend from work let me sleep on his couch for a while. Then his mom said I had to leave. After that, shelters. I stayed at different ones around Minneapolis for about a year. Kept trying to find work, but it's hard when you don't have an address, don't have a place to shower or clean clothes for an interview. He finished the sandwich, crumpled the wrapper in his hands. Then I lost my job, couldn't keep up with anything, ended up on the streets. For how long? About 8 months. Slept under bridges mostly, behind buildings. There's a soup kitchen on 6th Street that opens at 5 in the morning. I'd go there when I could. He looked at his coffee cup. You learn pretty fast where the cops won't bother you. where it's safe to close your eyes for a few hours. I watched his face. 19 years old, and he was talking about finding safe places to sleep outside like it was normal. I tried to find Mom once, about a year ago. Went to the last address I had for her. She wasn't there. Neighbors said she'd been evicted months before. Nobody knew where she went. And you ended up here, in Rochester, a few months ago. Yeah, there's a good shelter program here. A bus ticket was cheaper than trying to stay in Minneapolis for winter. I got into the program, got a bed, met a social worker there, Andrea Walsh. She's been helping me look for work, checking in on me every week, making sure I'm okay. He pulled out his birth certificate again, unfolded it carefully. She helped me trace the family names on this, found out Claire Brennan died a long time ago. But we found you, found the store listed online. Andrea, the name stuck in my head. A social worker who checked in every week, who helped him search for family, who gave enough of a damn about this kid to actually follow through. I sat there looking at him. This kid who'd been told his whole life he was a burden, who'd worked at 14 to support his mother, only to have her choose a drunk boyfriend over him, who'd been sleeping in shelters and on streets for 2 years, who'd survived winters outside and still had the guts to go looking for family. And I recognized it, all of it. The way Linda took everything and gave nothing back. The way she made people believe her problems were their fault. The way she burned through money and blamed everyone else. The way she abandoned people the second they stopped being useful. She'd done it to me. Now she'd done it to her own son. She stole from you, didn't she? Danny said quietly. That's why you reacted the way you did when I said her name. Yeah, she stole from me. What did she take? I picked up my coffee cup, set it back down without drinking. Everything, I said. She took everything. He nodded slowly. She's good at that. We sat there in silence. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. We're both her victims, Danny said. Aren't we? I looked at him, at our father's eyes in his face, at this kid who'd survived Linda's chaos and somehow still had the guts to go looking for family. Yeah, I said. I guess we are. He met my eyes, and for the first time since he'd walked into my store, something in his face relaxed, like he'd been carrying a question for a long time and finally got an answer. Not the answer he probably wanted, but an answer that made sense. The sun had dropped below the buildings. Through the store windows, the streetlights were starting to flicker on. I looked at Danny sitting across from me, this kid who just told me his whole life story in an hour. You need to hear mine, I said. I stood up, walked to the front door, and locked it, flipped the sign from open to closed. It was only 4:30, but I didn't care. I came back and sat down. Our mother died nearly 3 decades ago. I was 33. Linda was 28. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, even though it had gone cold. Mom left everything split 50-50 between us. The house and $380,000 in life insurance and savings. Danny's eyes widened. That's a lot of money. It was. My half would have been $310,000. I looked at my cold coffee. Linda was supposed to co-sign the paperwork to sell the house. We were supposed to split the proceeds and the insurance money. That's what the will said. But she didn't. No. She forged my signature on the documents, sold the house herself, took all the money and vanished to Minneapolis. I didn't find out until the bank called asking why I hadn't come to pick up my check. Turns out there was no check. Linda had already cashed it. Jesus. I filed a police report. They said it was a civil matter. I talked to a lawyer. He said I could sue her, but she'd disappeared, and I didn't have money for a long court case, so that was it. She was gone. The money was gone. Danny sat very still. What happened to you? Everything fell apart. I was married then. My husband and I had been trying to have a baby for 2 years. I couldn't get pregnant. Doctors said I'd need fertility treatments if we wanted kids, but our insurance didn't cover it. We'd been counting on my half of the inheritance to pay for the treatments. I set the cup down. When Linda stole the money, my husband blamed me, said I should have been more careful, should have watched her closer, like it was my fault. That's not fair. No, but that's what he said. We fought about it for months. Then he told me if we couldn't have kids, he didn't see the point of staying married, so he left. Divorce was final 6 months later. I was 35 years old, broke and alone. I had to move into a tiny apartment, started working double shifts at a grocery store, took cleaning jobs on weekends. Every dollar I made went to rent and food and trying not to drown. I looked around the store. It took me 15 years to save enough to put a down payment on this place. Opened it when I was 51. That was 11 years ago. You built this yourself? Yeah, I built it myself, and I've worked 70 hours a week ever since just to keep the lights on. Danny shook his head slowly. She stole your whole life. She stole my chance at having kids, my marriage, my future, $310,000 that would have changed everything. I met his eyes, so yeah, when you walked in here today and said her name, every alarm bell in my head went off, because Linda takes things. That's what she does. I'm not her. I don't know that yet. He nodded. Looked down at his hands. What do you want me to do? Leave? I should have said yes, should have sent him back to the shelter and forgotten about him. That would have been the smart thing, the safe thing. But I looked at him sitting there with our father's features and Linda's damage written all over him, and I thought about how she'd stolen from both of us, how she'd thrown both of us away like we were nothing. I'll make you an offer, I said. Work here, minimum wage. You show up on time, you do the work, you prove you're not like her. Maybe I'll help you get on your feet. His head came up. You're serious. I'm serious, but if you steal from me, if you lie to me, if you pull anything that even smells like Linda, you're out. Understood? Understood. You start tomorrow, 5:45 in the morning. He stood up fast. Thank you. I swear I won't let you down. We'll see. He left that night with a pre-made sandwich and a promise to be back before dawn. I watched him walk down the street with his backpack, and I wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. But the next morning, at 5:45 exactly, he knocked on the door. For the first 3 weeks, I watched him like a hawk, counted the register at the end of every shift, checked inventory twice a day, waited for something to go missing, waited for him to not show up, waited for the con. But Danny came in every single day at 5:45, 15 minutes early. He stocked shelves, worked the register, cleaned the bathroom without being asked. When elderly customers came in, he carried their groceries to their cars. When the bread delivery came late, he reorganized the whole shelf to make room. He never complained, never asked for extra money, just worked. After a month, I co-signed a lease for a small room 2 blocks away, told myself I was just being practical. If he had a stable place to sleep, he'd be more reliable. That's all it was. I still didn't trust him. 3 months in, he came to me with an idea. What if we did delivery? For the older customers who can't walk here, I could take orders and drop them off. I looked at him like he was crazy. We don't have a car. I could use my bike. Just start small. See if anyone wants it. Nobody's going to pay for delivery from a convenience store. Maybe. But maybe they would. I let him try it. Figured it would fail and he'd drop it. But he made flyers on the library computer and put them up at the senior center 3 blocks away. Within 2 weeks, we had 10 regular delivery customers. Within 2 months, 15. He'd load up his backpack with groceries and ride his bike around the neighborhood, dropping off milk and bread and medicine to people who couldn't get out. He also started posting pictures of our deli sandwiches on social media. I didn't even know what Instagram was, but suddenly we had younger customers coming in, saying they saw our food online. 6 months in, revenue was up 15%. The register had more cash at the end of the day. The deli was selling out of sandwiches by 2 in the afternoon. I gave him a small raise, told him he was doing good work. He looked at me like I'd handed him a gold medal. Really? Don't make me say it twice. He smiled. First real smile I'd seen from him. Thank you, Joan. I watched him go back to stocking shelves, and something in my chest loosened a little bit. Just a little. He wasn't Linda. He built things instead of breaking them. He showed up instead of disappearing. He gave instead of taking. It had been 6 months. I still checked the register every night. Still counted inventory. But I checked a little less carefully now. Counted a little less obsessively. Maybe he really was different. The first year came and went. Danny showed up every single day, worked every shift I asked him to work. Never stole a dollar. Never lied about being sick when he wasn't. Never did a single thing that reminded me of Linda. On the anniversary of the day he first walked in, I closed the store early, bought a small cake from the bakery down the street, lit a candle. "What's this for?" he asked. "1 year. You've been working here a full year." He stared at the cake like he'd never seen one before. "I've never had anyone celebrate me working somewhere." "Well, you've earned it." We sat at the deli table and ate cake. It was chocolate. Too sweet. The frosting stuck to the roof of my mouth, but Danny ate his piece like it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. "You're doing good work," I said. "I want you to know that." He looked up at me. His eyes were wet. "That means a lot. Don't get soft on me. You've still got floors to mop." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Yes, ma'am." I watched him clean up the cake plates and get back to work. This kid who'd been sleeping in shelters a year ago, who'd survived Linda's chaos and come out the other side, still trying. And I realized something that scared me. I was starting to care about him. Not just as an employee, as something else. Something I didn't have words for yet. I pushed the thought away, locked it down. But it stayed there anyway, quiet and persistent, like a seed that had been planted whether I wanted it or not. 3 years had passed since that first day. Danny was 22 now. I was 65, and somewhere along the way the store stopped being just mine and became ours. The deli counter looked nothing like it used to. Danny had pushed for breakfast service, said people walking to work needed more than pre-made sandwiches, so now we made breakfast wraps fresh every morning. Egg and cheese, bacon and avocado. They sold out by 8:30 most days. He'd also talked me into catering. Small stuff at first. Sandwich platters for office meetings, coffee and pastries for a real estate open house. Then a law firm started ordering lunch 3 times a week. Then a construction company. Then more. We hired 2 part-time employees just to keep up. Maria worked mornings. Kevin worked afternoons. Both of them were good kids. Danny had interviewed them himself. I worked 50 hours a week now instead of 70. My knees thanked me. My bank account looked better than it had in 20 years. For the first time since I'd opened this place, I wasn't 1 bad month away from losing it. Danny had changed too. Not just physically, though he'd filled out some. Looked healthier, slept in a real bed now, ate regular meals, but it was more than that. He moved through the store like he belonged there, joked with the regulars, knew their names, their grandkids' names, what they always ordered. When Mrs. Patel came in complaining about a charge on her receipt, Danny handled it calmly, checked the register tape, found the mistake, refunded her money, apologized. She left happy. I watched him do it and realized something. He wasn't an employee anymore. He was my partner. One Tuesday morning, our bread supplier showed up an hour late with half the order. I would have lost my temper, called them, threatened to find someone else. But Danny walked the guy outside, talked to him quietly for 10 minutes, came back in with a promise of a discount on the next 3 deliveries and an assurance it wouldn't happen again. "How'd you manage that?" I asked. He shrugged. His truck broke down this morning. He was stressed. I just listened. That was Danny. He listened. He built bridges instead of burning them. We started having dinner together twice a week. He'd come up to my apartment above the store after we closed, bring Chinese takeout or pizza. We'd sit at my tiny kitchen table and talk. At first it was just business, which suppliers to use, whether we should expand the sandwich menu, how to handle difficult customers. Then one night he asked about my ex-husband. "Do you ever think about him? Wonder what happened to him?" I set my fork down. "No, not in a long time." "Did you love him?" I thought I did. Then he left when things got hard, and I realized love isn't supposed to work that way. Danny was quiet for a moment. My mom used to say she loved me. Then she'd tell me I ruined her life in the same breath. That wasn't love. That was Linda being Linda. Yeah, he picked at his low mane. I used to think something was wrong with me, like if I'd been different, better, she would have wanted to keep me. I looked at him across the table. "Nothing was wrong with you. Everything was wrong with her." He nodded. Didn't say anything else, but something in his face relaxed. We talked about Linda sometimes. Not often, but when we did, it helped. Like lancing a wound so it could heal clean. We'd both carried her damage for so long. Him for 19 years, me for decades. Sharing it somehow made it lighter. The next week, he mentioned he'd never had a birthday party growing up. Mom forgot most years, or she'd remember, but we didn't have money for cake. One year she promised we'd celebrate and then she didn't come home. So I started making sure we acknowledged his birthday every year. Simple celebrations. A cake and an hour off to sit together and mark the day. The first time I did it, he cried, tried to hide it, but I saw. The second year, he just smiled, said it meant more than I knew. By year 3, the business was doing well enough that we started talking about expansion. A second location, somewhere across town in one of the growing neighborhoods. I'd never thought that big before, never let myself want more than survival. But Danny pulled up demographics on his laptop, showed me foot traffic patterns, talked about underserved areas, made it sound possible. We could do this, he said. Really do this. You mean I could go into massive debt and lose everything if it fails? Or you could trust that we've built something good, and we can build it again somewhere else. I looked at him, 22 years old, and talking about business expansion like he'd been doing it his whole life, taking online courses at night, reading books about inventory management and profit margins. He'd come so far from the scared kid who'd walked in 3 years ago. Okay, I said. Let's start saving. We put aside $1,200 a month, sometimes $1,500 when we had a good month. Separate bank account just for the second location. Danny tracked every dollar in a spreadsheet, showed me the numbers growing. It felt real. Our routines solidified. I made the morning coffee. Danny handled opening duties, unlocking the door, turning on the lights, checking that everything was ready. We split the register. He locked up at night, made sure everything was secure. We didn't talk about it. It just happened. One night I was upstairs after close, sitting in my apartment with a cup of tea, and I thought about Danny downstairs locking up, about how he'd been doing it for years now, about how I'd stopped checking behind him, about how I trusted him with my keys, my register, my business, about how I loved him. Not like an employee, not even like a nephew, like a son. The thought terrified me, because love meant risk, meant opening yourself up to loss, meant caring about someone enough that it could destroy you if they left. But it was too late. I already loved him. Had loved him for a while, probably. Just hadn't let myself admit it. Year 4 passed. Then year 5 arrived. Danny turned 24. I turned 67. We had $55,000 saved. 3 years of putting money aside month after month. We'd signed a lease for a space across town. Construction was underway. Spring opening planned. It was November again. 5 years to the day since Danny had first walked through my door. We were doing inventory together, counting cans of soup, when he started laughing. What? Remember the first day I came in here? I stood in the candy aisle for like 10 minutes trying to work up the courage to talk to you. I remember. I thought you were going to steal something. I thought you were going to call the cops on me. He grinned. I was terrified. So was I. Of me. Of what it would mean if I let you stay. I put down my clipboard. I'd spent so long not trusting anyone, not letting anyone in. And then there you were, asking for a chance. I'm glad you gave me one. Me too. He went back to counting soup cans. I watched him work. This young man who'd become family without either of us planning it, who'd taken my broken-down little store and helped turn it into something real, who'd taken my broken-down heart and helped it work again. The door chimed. We both looked up. A woman stood in the doorway, thin, gray skin, moving slowly like every step hurt, wearing clothes that came from a donation bin. I recognized her instantly. Linda. My blood went cold. My hand tightened on the clipboard until the metal edge cut into my palm. Linda. She'd aged badly. Her face was gaunt, skin gray like old newspaper. She moved into the store slowly, one hand on the doorframe for support. The clothes hung off her frame. Donated, probably. A coat 2 sizes too big, pants with a frayed hem. She carried a manila envelope clutched against her chest. She looked sick. She looked desperate. I didn't care. Get out. Linda stopped. Her mouth opened, closed. Joan, please, I need to talk to you. I said get out. My voice came out flat and hard. You're not welcome here. Joan. She took another step inside. Just let me explain. Mom? Danny's voice came from the back room. I heard boxes hit the floor. Then he was there, standing next to me, staring at the woman in the doorway. His mother, the woman who'd kicked him out at 17 and left him to sleep on streets for 2 years. Linda's face crumpled. Danny. Oh God, Danny. He didn't move, just stood there, frozen. His face had gone pale. You need to leave, I said to Linda. Right now, before I call the police. Please. Linda's voice cracked. I know you don't want to see me. I know what I did, but I need to talk to you. Both of you. Please. You have 10 seconds. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Then I'm calling 911 and having you arrested for trespassing. I'm dying. The words hung in the air. Danny made a sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. Linda pulled papers from the manila envelope. Her hands shook so badly the papers rattled. I'm dying. I have medical records, hospital reports, everything. Please, just look at them. She held the papers toward me. I didn't take them. I don't care if you're dying. I don't care if you're sick. You stole from me. You destroyed my life, and you threw your own son away like garbage. My hand was steady on the phone. Leave, now. Joan, please. Tears ran down Linda's face. I know I don't deserve help. I know what I am, but I'm your sister. I'm Danny's mother, and I'm dying. She took another step forward, set the papers on the counter between us. Hospital letterhead, Rochester Methodist Hospital. I could see the words cardiac and urgent from where I stood. I have severe coronary artery disease. 3 blockages. My heart is failing. Linda's voice shook. I need a triple bypass surgery. Without it, I'll have a massive heart attack within 3 months. The doctors say I won't survive it. Danny reached for the papers, picked them up, started reading. Don't, I said to him. But he kept reading. His hands trembled. Linda kept talking. The surgery costs $52,000. The hospital needs $26,000 up front before they'll even schedule it. I don't have insurance. I don't have savings. I don't have anyone else. She looked between us. You're the only family I have left. You made that choice, I said. You chose to steal from me. You chose to abandon your son. You chose every single thing that led you here. I know, so why should we care? Linda's face twisted, more tears. Because I don't want to die. Because I'm 57 years old and I made terrible choices and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I know saying it doesn't fix anything, but I'm begging you. Please. Danny set the papers down. These look real. Of course they look real, I said. Linda forged documents before. She's good at making things look legitimate. Joan. She stole $310,000 from me using fake paperwork. You think she can't fake medical records? Linda shook her head. I'm not lying. Call the hospital. Talk to my doctor. Dr. Phillips. He's listed right there on the papers. Call him. Verify everything. I'm not lying about this. I looked at the papers on the counter. Diagnosis reports. Test results. Surgery estimates. All with official-looking headers and signatures. It could be real. It could also be the best con Linda ever pulled. How much do you need? Danny's voice was quiet. No. I turned to him. We're not doing this. She's my mother. She kicked you out. She let you starve. She chose a drunk boyfriend over you. I know. Danny's face was pale, but his jaw was set. But she's still my mother. And if she's really dying, what does that make us if we say no? Smart. It makes us smart. Because she's done this before, Danny. Not the dying part, but the begging part. The part where she needs something, and suddenly she's sorry, and she'll change, and it'll be different this time. I could hear my voice getting louder. It's never different. She takes what she wants and she leaves. Linda made a choking sound. Please. I know I was a terrible mother. I know I failed you, Danny. Every single day. But I don't want to die. I'm scared. I'm alone. And you're the only people in the world who might care if I live or die. We don't, I said. We don't care. Joan. Danny's voice was sharp now. I looked at him, saw the conflict in his face, the pain. This woman had hurt him his entire childhood, had told him he ruined her life, had thrown him out with nothing, and he still wanted to help her. Because he was good. Because he wasn't Linda. But I couldn't let him do this. She'll take the money and disappear, I said. That's what she does. She takes and she runs and she leaves wreckage behind. What if she doesn't? Danny asked. What if she's really dying and we're the only ones who can save her? Then she faces the consequences of her choices. I won't let her destroy you again. It's not your decision. The words hit me like a slap. He was right. He was 24 years old. I wasn't his mother, no matter how much I felt like it. I couldn't tell him what to do. But I could try to protect him. Linda sobbed. Please, please don't let me die. I'll pay you back. I'll do whatever you want. Just please give me a chance. Get out. I picked up the papers and held them toward her. Take your papers and your sob story and get out of my store. Joan, stop. Danny put his hand on my arm. I said, get out. Linda took the papers. Her hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped them. She looked at Danny. Please, you know what it's like to be alone and scared. You know what it's like to have nowhere to go. Please. Danny's eyes were wet. Don't, I said to him. Don't let her do this to you. She's dying, he said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe she's running the same con she always runs. Either way, we're not giving her anything. Linda backed toward the door, still crying, still holding the papers against her chest like a shield. I'm staying at the shelter on 3rd Street. If you change your mind, please. I don't have much time. She left. The door closed behind her. Danny and I stood there in the sudden silence. He was breathing hard. I could see his chest rising and falling. We need to talk about this, he said. No, we don't. Yes, we do. She's lying. She's always lying. That's what Linda does. What if she's not? I looked at him, at this young man I loved like a son, who'd survived Linda's damage and built a life anyway, who'd worked so hard to become someone good. And I saw her pulling him back in, saw the hook setting, saw him wanting to believe she'd changed, wanting to believe she deserved mercy. She'll destroy us, I said, just like she destroyed everything else. Or we save her life. At what cost? Danny didn't answer, just stood there, pale and shaking, staring at the door where his mother had been. And I felt the fear rise up in my throat, because I knew that look. I knew what it meant. He wanted to help her, and I had no idea how to stop him. That night, we closed the store an hour early, locked the door, went upstairs to my apartment. Danny sat at my kitchen table with his head in his hands. I made coffee neither of us wanted. She's still my mother, he said. What if she's really dying? What if we could save her and we just let her die? She forged documents to steal from me once before. I set the coffee mug in front of him. These medical papers could be fake too. This is what she does. But what if they're not fake? Then she's finally experiencing consequences. We argued for hours. Danny said we had $55,000 saved. We could delay the second store. Save a life. Wasn't that worth it? I reminded him what Linda had done. She threw you on the street at 17. She let you sleep under bridges. She took your paychecks and spent them on slot machines. She doesn't deserve our mercy. But what if she's changed? What if she's finally sorry? I looked at him across the table. Danny, you want a mother? You've always wanted a mother, but she's not that person. She's never been that person. Don't let her con you again. He didn't answer, just sat there staring at his untouched coffee. Over the next week, Danny brought it up every morning. Before we opened, during inventory, while we were restocking shelves. He couldn't let it go. I spent my evenings researching online, found stories of medical fraud, people who faked cancer diagnoses to get money from family, who forged hospital records, who preyed on guilt and family obligation. I showed Danny the articles. This is what con artists do. Linda has done this her whole life. I know. Do you? Because you keep bringing it up like there's another option here. There is another option. We help her. And when she takes the money and disappears? When we find out the medical records were fake and she's living in some other city spending our savings? What then? Danny's jaw tightened. You're so sure she's lying. I'm sure she's Linda. That's enough. On the 8th day, Danny came to me before we opened. Okay, we don't give her the money. You're right. I wish things were different. Relief flooded through me. They're not different. She's not different. I know. That afternoon, Linda came to the store, stood outside looking through the window. I saw her before she saw me. Went outside to the parking lot. "We're not giving you anything," I said. "I don't know if you're dying or lying, but I know you destroyed us both. Leave Rochester and don't come back." Linda's face crumpled. "Please, I'm begging you." "The answer is no. You're murderers. Both of you." Her voice rose, shrill and desperate. "Danny will regret this his whole life. You'll regret this." Danny had come outside. He stood beside me but didn't say anything. Linda looked at him, waited for him to speak, to contradict me, to save her. He stayed silent. She screamed at us, called us heartless, called us monsters, said we'd have to live with killing her. Then she left, got into a car I didn't recognize and drove away. Danny and I went back inside, didn't talk about it, just went back to work. 3 months passed. Winter turned to spring. We finished construction on the second store, hired more employees, set an opening date. The business kept us busy. We didn't talk about Linda. I assumed she'd moved on, found some other mark, some other family to con. Then one cold morning in February, Andrea Walsh walked into the store. I recognized her immediately. The social worker who'd helped Danny 5 years ago, who'd checked in on him every few months since. She looked somber. "Andrea?" Danny said. "What's wrong?" "I'm so sorry. I wanted you to hear it from me." She pulled an envelope from her bag. "Linda Cooper passed away 2 weeks ago. Massive heart attack at a shelter in Minneapolis. Everything she told you was true. I have her death certificate." The world tilted. Danny's face went white. He took the envelope, opened it, stared at the paper inside. "The hospital tried to get her into emergency surgery," Andrea said quietly. "But without the upfront payment, they kept delaying. By the time they admitted her as emergency care, it was too late. She left after that, said she was sorry again, left us standing in the middle of the store with a death certificate." Danny didn't speak for days. He came to work, stocked shelves, worked the register, talked to customers, but his eyes were somewhere else. He moved like a ghost. A week after Andrea's visit, I was closing up. Danny was supposed to leave an hour earlier, but he was still there, sitting at the deli table in the dark. I sat down across from him. "We killed her." His voice was flat. "We had the money and we let her die." "No, she killed herself. She spent decades making choices, stealing, gambling, abandoning people. She built this ending brick by brick. But we could have saved her. We had $55,000. We chose money over her life. We chose our future over trusting someone who spent decades proving she couldn't be trusted. She forged documents once before. We made the choice we could live with based on who she showed us she was." I kept my voice steady. "That's not murder. That's survival." "It doesn't feel like survival. It feels like I let my mother die." "You didn't let her die. You refused to be destroyed by her one more time. There's a difference." He put his head down on the table. His shoulders shook. I reached across and put my hand on his arm, didn't say anything else. Just sat there with him while he cried for the mother he never really had. The new store opened 2 weeks later. It went well. Customers came. Sales were good. Danny managed it, just like we'd planned. But the joy was muted. We both carried Linda's death like a weight. 2 months passed. April arrived. One quiet Sunday, we sat in the original store after closing, coffee going cold on the table between us. "I think I understand now," Danny said. "If we'd given her the money and she'd run off with it, another scam, I would have hated myself for being fooled again. Either way, I was going to carry something heavy." I nodded. "We made a choice with the information we had. She gave us a lifetime of reasons not to trust her. One medical document didn't erase that. Do you think she was really sorry at the end?" I thought about it. Maybe. Or maybe she was just scared. We'll never know. But Danny, she had all those years to be sorry, to find you, to apologize, to change. She only showed up when she needed something. That tells you everything." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I'm glad I have you." "I'm glad I have you too." We sat there as the light faded outside, 2 people who'd found each other by accident, who'd built something real out of Linda's wreckage. The next morning, I went to the new store. Danny was already there, organizing inventory. I watched him help a young mother find formula for her baby, watched him joke with an elderly man buying his morning paper, watched him move through the space with confidence and kindness. He'd become a good man despite Linda, because he'd chosen to be different. Linda made her choices every single day for 6 decades. She stole, she abandoned, she burned every bridge. In the end, she died alone because that's the life she built. We didn't kill her. We just refused to be destroyed by her one more time. The new store is open now. Danny manages it. We're moving forward with our lives, with our business, with the family we chose to build together. And Linda's ghost can't follow us there. So, that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Would you have trusted Linda and given her the money if you were in our position? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like mine.